Part 1. 90 seconds, the moment that decides an account. Do you know that feeling when you're sitting in front of the screen and everything seems fine? The strategy is right, the plan is clear, the risk is calculated, and then, in just one moment, a candle spikes hard. A position goes a few pips deeper into the red. A number flashes red, and the entire system inside you collapses. Your heart beats faster, your breath shortens. Your hands start wanting to do something. You know very clearly what you should not do, but you do it anyway. Then, after the trade is closed, after the account has taken damage, you sit there and ask yourself, why did I lose control so fast? Am I mentally weak? Am I just not cut out for trading? The truth is, what just happened wasn't you. It was 90 seconds. Neurologically, whenever there is a strong stimulus, a spike, a fast-losing trade, unexpected news, your body releases a surge of stress chemicals. Adrenaline, cortisol. These chemicals only stay in your system for about 90 seconds. Exactly, not longer. After 90 seconds, if you don't add anything to them, they are naturally flushed out of your nervous system. The problem is, traders almost never stop at those 90 seconds. We keep panic alive by replaying the story in our head. The market is against me. Here we go again. I can't let it lose more. If I don't re-enter now, I'll miss the opportunity. That story is what turns 90 biological seconds into 20 minutes of broken discipline and often a destroyed account. It's like a fire alarm. The alarm rings because there's smoke. But instead of opening a window, you run around and throw more wood into the fire. In trading, you don't lose because of that candle. You lose because of the story you tell after that candle. The most dangerous thing isn't emotion. The most dangerous thing is believing you have no choice. You say, the market made me panic. That candle made me lose control. Price moved too fast, I couldn't think. But the truth is, no candle has the power to press your button. And this is where most traders get stuck for life without realizing it. They believe a myth. When the market does this, I have to react like that, as if you were a remote control, and the market is holding the remote. But you're not. Part 2. The button-pressing myth. In trading, why the market does not control you. There's a sentence every trader has said at least once. This market really knows how to push my buttons. You say it after consecutive stop losses, after price spikes and reverses, after a day where every trade goes against you. It sounds reasonable, but that sentence hides a very dangerous assumption, that the market has direct power over your emotions, that when price does something, you are forced to react. But pause for a moment. Slowly. No candle knows who you are. No chart cares about your self-esteem. No market is trying to teach you a lesson. If two traders look at the same chart, the same spike, the same news, and one stays calm while the other panics, the problem cannot be the market. The button-pressing myth makes traders live like victims. It allows you to believe you have no choice. But the truth is, no one can press a button unless you hand them the button. In trading, those buttons are not price, not spread, not news. Those buttons are the fear from a past blown account, the shame of once bragging about profits and then losing, the feeling of not being good enough when comparing yourself to others, the obsession with getting back lost money. When the market presses your button, it's actually just activating an old wound. A trader gets stopped out and immediately re-enters with double the size. On the surface, it looks like FOMO. But deeper it's, I can't accept the feeling that I was wrong. A trader sees price moving in the right direction, but exits too early. On the surface, it's fear of losing profit. But deeper it's, I don't believe I deserve to hold this. A trader can't enter even with a perfect setup. On the surface, it looks like caution. But deeper it's, if I lose one more time, I won't survive the feeling. The chart is just a mirror. It doesn't create emotion. It exposes emotion. And this is the most important moment in a trader's growth. When you stop asking, what is the market doing to me? And start asking, what inside me is being touched right now? The moment you ask that question, you are no longer the remote control. You become the one holding it, not to control the market, but to control your internal state. Think back to the last trade where you lost control, not the technical details. Remember the feeling of being pressured, the feeling of having to do something now, the feeling that if you don't act, you'll lose something huge. Does that feeling feel familiar? Very likely it didn't start in trading. Trading is just the place where it shows up the clearest. In the next part, we'll peel the layer even deeper. Because what you call anger at the market, frustration with price, annoyance after losing a trade is not the root emotion at all. Part 3. Secondary emotions. In trading, why anger at the market is never the truth. There's something very few traders dare to look at directly. The emotions you can identify in trading are almost never the real emotions. You say you're angry. You say you're frustrated. You say you're annoyed with the market. But the truth is, those emotions are just the outer layer. In psychology, they're called secondary emotions. They're like a mask, a layer of protection, a spokesperson sent out so that no one, not even you, has to look at what's more fragile underneath. In trading, anger is a safe emotion. It makes you feel powerful. It makes you feel in control. It makes you feel like I'm fine. While the emotions underneath are the opposite. A trader loses a trade and slams the desk. On the surface, it's anger. Underneath, it's, I just felt inadequate. A trader sees price move against them and curses the market. On the surface, it's frustration. Underneath, it's, I'm afraid I'm repeating an old mistake. A trader revenge trades non-stop after a loss. On the surface, it's competitiveness. Underneath, it's, I can't tolerate feeling powerless. Anger is not the root, it's the guard. Its job is to stand in front of emotions like shame, fear, self-doubt, and the feeling of not being good enough. Trading is especially cruel here, because every losing trade isn't just losing money. It hits identity. Do I really understand the market? Am I fooling myself? Am I the only one who never improves? Those questions hurt deeply. And the brain will do anything to keep you from feeling them. So it brings anger, it brings frustration, it brings the urge to act. If you try to fix trading by suppressing secondary emotions, you're aiming at the wrong target. You say, I need to be less angry. I need to calm down. I need more discipline. But you never ask, what inside me is hurting right now? And so, you treat symptoms while ignoring the cause. There is a very small moment that, if you're aware enough, you can catch. Right before you revenge trade. Right before you move your stop loss. Right before you enter without a setup. In that moment, there's a brief fragile feeling. It might be, what if I lose again? What if I'm wrong? What if I'm not good enough? That moment is very short. Very easy to miss. But that is the root point. If you learn to stay with that fragile feeling for just a few more seconds, if you allow it to exist without immediately doing something, anger doesn't need to appear, and the urge to act weakens. Vulnerability heals. Anger breaks discipline. The most durable traders are not the ones without emotion. They are the ones who can recognize the core emotion before the secondary emotion takes over. Part 4. The space between stimulus and response. Where accounts are saved or destroyed, most traders believe their reactions are instant. Price spikes, heart races, hand clicks, no space, no choice. But that's just how it feels, not how it actually is. Between every stimulus from the market and every action you take, there is always a very small space, very brief, almost invisible. But that space is where every professional trader is born. Most traders don't lose because of strategy. They lose because they don't know this space exists. A stimulus appears, a spike, a fast-losing trade, unexpected news. The nervous system is triggered. The first 90 seconds begin. During that time, your primitive brain takes control. Its mission is simple: survival, not profit, not discipline, not long-term probability. Just do something now. But before you click, before you move the stop loss, before you add another trade, there is a tiny moment most traders are never taught to notice. That is the point of choice. Viktor Frankl wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is freedom." He didn't write that in a classroom. He wrote it in a concentration camp. If a human in that situation still had space to choose, then a trader in front of a chart certainly does. The problem is, that space doesn't open by itself. You have to learn to see it. This space is not where you think more logically. It's where you pause. One question is enough. Which reaction will I not regret 24 hours from now? This question isn't meant to find the perfect answer. It's meant to slow the reflex. The moment you ask it, the prefrontal cortex starts working again. You step out of survival mode and back into observation. A trader hits a losing streak. The first impulse is to increase size. But in the moment before entering, he pauses and asks, "If I do nothing for the next 10 minutes, will anything truly bad happen?" The answer is usually no. And just like that, the account is saved. The point of choice doesn't remove emotion. It separates emotion from action. You still feel tension. You still feel discomfort. But you are no longer dragged by it. The difference between a stable trader and an impulsive one is not emotional intensity. It's the ability to recognize and use the point of choice. Most traders live like pinball machines. Price hits here, they bounce there. A mature trader stands outside the table and decides when to press the button. In the next part, we'll go even deeper, because to use the point of choice, you need a very specific skill, a capacity that allows you to experience emotion without being controlled by it. Part 5. The Observing Self. In trading, how to experience emotion without being led by it. There is a very common misunderstanding in trading, that calm traders feel nothing, that they are cold, that they're unaffected. The truth is the opposite. They feel very clearly. They just don't identify with emotion. This difference is crucial. Most traders say, "I am afraid, I am angry, I am panicking," but they don't realize that changing one small sentence changes everything. I am noticing fear arising. I am observing frustration increasing. The moment you speak like that, you are no longer the emotion. You become the observer of it. Inside every trader, there are always two parts, a reactive part and an observing part. The reactive part wants immediate action. Close the trade, add another, get it back. The observing part is silent. It's not in a hurry. It just watches. Failed traders live in the reactive part. Durable traders learn to stand in the observer. When you look at the chart and your heart starts racing, the observing self says, "Heart rate is increasing." When you feel the urge to enter early, it says, "There is a desire to enter early" appearing. No judgment, no suppression. Just noticing. Strangely enough, when emotion is observed, it begins to weaken. Not because you fight it, but because you stop feeding it. The observing self is always outside the battle. A trader notices the urge to move the stop loss. Instead of self-criticism, he quietly says, "A part of me is afraid of being stopped out." That's it. No action, no reaction. A few minutes later, the urge passes. Emotions are like weather. They come, they go. But if you think you are the sky, you'll panic every time clouds appear. The observing self is the sky. It doesn't try to remove the clouds. It lets them pass. When you trade from observation, you don't need to force calm. Calm is a consequence, not a goal. You may still shake, still feel fear, still feel discomfort. But those emotions no longer decide your actions. This is why mature traders don't need forced discipline. Their discipline comes from inner distance. The distance between feeling the urge and choosing the action. In the next part, we'll make a major shift. We'll change how you view the things that trigger you in trading, because when you see them correctly, those uncomfortable situations are not enemies. They are coaches. Part 6, Reframing Pressure. In trading, when the market becomes an emotional coach, there is a moment in the trading journey that, if you pass it, nothing is ever the same. That moment is when you stop asking, "Why is the market doing this to me?" and start asking, "What is this training me to develop?" Most traders see pressure as an enemy to avoid. Drawdown days, losing streaks, fake breakouts, periods of stagnation. They want the market to be easier, but the market does not exist to make you comfortable. It exists to expose weakness. That sounds harsh, but when understood correctly, it's the greatest gift trading offers. Think of a great fitness coach. They don't give easy workouts. They give the right ones. Workouts that make muscles shake. Workouts that make you want to quit. That's where strength is built. Trading works the same way. Every situation that triggers you is pointing precisely to a psychological muscle that's weak. A trader who can't tolerate drawdown is being trained on distorted expectations. A trader who panics when price moves against them is being trained on attachment to outcome. A trader who can't enter after losses is being trained on identity fear. If you see these situations only as punishment, you'll hate the market. If you see them as workouts designed specifically for you, you start to grow. Imagine two traders going through the same losing streak. Trader A says, "This market is evil." Trader B says, "This is testing my discipline." 6 months later, the outcomes are completely different. Reframing is not self-comfort. It's changing the question. Not, "How do I avoid this feeling?" but, "What is this feeling pointing to?" When you're triggered, it's not failure, it's information. A trader notices that every time others post profits, he becomes unstable. Instead of self-hate, he understands. My training is learning to separate my self-worth from other people's results. Another trader notices he always exits early when in profit. Instead of forcing greed, he understands. My training is learning to trust the process. When the market becomes a coach, you stop complaining and start training. Every trading day becomes an internal workout, not to make money, but to become the person who can hold money. In the next part, we'll talk about a skill many traders misunderstand: boundaries. Because without boundaries, the market, your emotions, and even yourself will drain you completely. Part 7. Boundaries in Trading. Protecting calm without imprisoning yourself. There's a major misunderstanding among traders that to trade well, you must become hard, numb, emotionless. From that belief, many build boundaries like walls. They separate themselves from the market, from emotion, from themselves. But that's not a boundary, that's defense. Healthy boundaries are not meant to block everything out. They're like skin. Skin allows nourishment in and keeps harm out. In trading, boundaries are not. Never feel emotion. Boundaries are, I allow emotion to exist, but I do not allow it to decide. Many traders think their boundary is the stop loss. It's not. A stop loss is a technical tool. The real boundary is what makes you respect it. A trader can place a perfect stop loss and still move it, because the internal boundary doesn't exist. Boundaries in trading start with clarity about what you accept and what you don't accept from yourself. I accept planned losses. I don't accept breaking discipline to recover. I accept days with no trades. I don't accept entering just to reduce discomfort. These boundaries don't need to be rigid, but they must be clear. A trader on a losing streak feels restless. Instead of forcing continuation, he sets a boundary. If my emotion crosses this threshold today, I stop. Not because he fears the market, but because he respects his internal energy. Boundaries also apply to environment. You can't expect calm if you follow too many other traders, compare constantly, watch others' profits daily. A mature trader knows how to say, "This information destabilizes me. I don't need it." Not because he's weak, because he's wise. Boundaries don't shrink you. They make you sustainable. You can't pour water from an empty cup. An exhausted trader trades to escape. A trader with boundaries trades from clarity. Think about the time you broke discipline the most. Chances are, it wasn't because the strategy failed. It was because your boundaries had already eroded. Part 8. Pausing in Trading. When doing nothing is a deliberate decision. In trading, few actions are misunderstood more than stopping. Stopping is often labeled with heavy words: fear, lack of confidence, avoidance. And so many traders keep trading not because they have edge, but because they fear stopping. But there is a critical distinction very few understand: the difference between escape and strategic retreat. Escape is leaving the market to avoid feeling something. Strategic retreat is stopping to avoid further damage. A trader in a losing streak, emotions high, judgment impaired. If he keeps trading, probability no longer lies in the strategy. It lies in psychology. In that moment, stopping is not weakness, it's self-mastery. There are days the market does nothing wrong, but your nervous system does. Body tired, mind scattered, expectations distorted. In that state, every decision is emotionally colored. Pausing allows the nervous system to return to balance, allows the prefrontal cortex to regain control. I'm not stopping because I lost. I'm stopping because right now, I'm not in a state to execute my edge. This subtle distinction separates long-term survivors from account burners. A mature trader doesn't ask, "Does the market have opportunity today?" He asks, "Am I fit to trade today?" And many days, the honest answer is no. Doing nothing is not missing opportunity. It's protecting mental capital, because the largest capital in trading is not money, it's decision clarity. Every time you trade in a bad state, you withdraw from your psychological account. When it runs dry, you will destroy everything even when the market offers good setups. A 15-minute pause can prevent a mistake that takes weeks to repair. One day without trading can save an entire month. Traders don't stop because they fear missing the market. Traders stop because they don't fear missing themselves. Part 9. The Emotional Trigger Map. In trading, knowing where you are before it explodes. You would never walk into a minefield blindfolded. Yet most traders walk into the market every day without knowing where their emotional minds are. And then they're surprised when they overreact, lose control, break discipline in familiar situations. The truth is, emotions in trading are not random. They have patterns, repetition points, history. Every time you're strongly triggered, it's not a new event. It's an old script replayed in a new setting. One trader panics when a winning trade returns to break even. Another explodes after consecutive stop losses. Another loses control when seeing others post profits. These reactions are not caused by the market. They are traces of unresolved experiences. Someone heavily criticized early in training becomes highly sensitive to markets that don't confirm them. Someone who lost big after overconfidence shrinks whenever a winning streak appears. When you don't know your triggers, you're always surprised. When you know them, you can prepare. Preparation is not avoidance. It's preventing being carried away. The trigger map begins with honest observation, not chart analysis, self-analysis. Each time you're strongly triggered, ask 3 simple questions. What just happened? What familiar feeling did it evoke? What past experience does this feeling resemble? Patterns begin to emerge. I always lose patience when the market ranges too long. I always want to recover after losing right after a winning day. I always hesitate after missing a big move. These statements are not self-criticism. They are maps. When you know you tend to overtrade after winning, you can preset a boundary. If I hit my daily target today, I stop. When you know 2 consecutive losses trigger revenge trading, you can pause before the nervous system hijacks you. Known triggers lose most of their power, because instead of saying, "Why am I like this?" you say, "I'm at a familiar weak point," and from there, you shift from reaction to response. Mature traders don't try to become trigger-free. They become deeply aware of what triggers them. That difference determines longevity. In the final part, we'll place the last piece, not strategy, not discipline, but the story in your head. Part 10. Freeing yourself from the story. In your head. Where traders actually become free. You don't trade the market. You trade the story you tell about the market. 2 traders look at the same chart, the same candle, the same stop loss. One stays calm, the other collapses. The difference isn't price, it's the meaning assigned to price. When a losing trade appears, your mind doesn't stop at the number. It immediately tells a story. Wrong again. I'm not improving. Maybe I'm not meant for trading. These stories are not facts. They are interpretations. And the most dangerous thing is believing you're reacting to reality when you're actually reacting to the story in your head. Every emotion in trading is amplified by the story attached to it. Same drawdown, 2 different stories. I'm on the right long-term path versus I'm falling behind everyone. 2 completely different emotional experiences. When you begin to notice the story, it stops controlling you. You don't need to delete it. You just need to see it. I'm telling the story that this losing trade defines my worth. That's all. And in that moment, distance appears. And in that distance, choice returns. Freedom in trading does not come from winning more. It comes from no longer letting every result define who you are. Unshaken traders are not indifferent. They care deeply. But they don't mix identity with outcome. They let the market be the market. They let themselves be themselves. The 90 seconds will still come. Triggers will still exist. But now you have a map. You know when to pause, when to observe, when to set boundaries, when to drop the story. Not to become perfect, but to become stable. Stable enough to execute edge. Stable enough to survive long term. A trader who is not disturbed by the market is not someone without emotion. They are someone no longer driven by reflex, and that person is not far away. They begin forming right now. The moment you reach this point and realize that freedom in trading was never outside your reach, it was always there, between stimulus and response, and now you know how to stand there.